Alright guys, well I'm back today with one of the absolute coolest 6.5 Creedmoors I've ever added to the collection, and definitely one of the most versatile 6.5 Creedmoors I've ever fired, either in my collection or at an industry event. This is the Palmetto State Armory Sabre-10A1. It's the billet version with the 14.5-inch pinned and weld barrel chambered in 6.5 Creedmoor. Now, Palmetto State Armory is killing it when it comes to their Sabre lineup. They're listening to what their customers are asking for, and they're putting them from ideas and on napkins into reality, especially with all of the options in the AR-15 lineup and the AR-10 lineup expanding more and more, including this new Sabre-10A1 lineup. Now, you can get a lot of versions of this setup in either a 16-inch barrel or a 14.5 pin and welded barrel in 6.5 Creedmoor or 308, and I fired both, but this one is the first Sabre in a AR-10 chambering that I've actually fired with the 14.5-inch pin and weld barrel. We're going to be talking about that a little bit later in this review. Now, before we get too far into it, I ran a ton of AAC ammo through it, and it all functioned great. So many different flavors of AAC, but probably my go-to round that I ran the most of was this Sabre Blade Black Tip, and I feel like it was just specifically designed for the Sabre setups because it runs so well, it functions great, and it's accurate, but we'll talk about that in the performance section of the review. For all of this info, you can head over to the campsite page where you can dig into more details that I can't necessarily go through on an actual video, but let's start from the front and work our way to the back. Now, one of the key things about Palmetto State Armory is the fact that they offer pin and weld services, which generally cost a lot of money, but on top of that, they don't just offer it with one company's muzzle device, and for YouTube purposes, this is a factory gun of how it comes. Now, this is a chemo pin and weld flash hider, but they also have the muzzle brakes, and once you pin and weld this to the end of a 14.5-inch barrel, you're going to get over 16 inches in length for overall length of the barrel, allowing this to be put on a rifle lower, making it as short as physically possible, yet still keeping it a rifle, again making this very versatile. You get the long-range capabilities of a 6.5 Creedmoor, although neutered a little bit because of the shortened barrel, the knockdown power of the massive 6.5 Creedmoor, which we'll talk about in a second, but you also get a shorter package that you could potentially use for home defense, CQB applications, and just general purpose shooting up close that you can't necessarily do with a full 18-inch barrel or even a 16-inch barrel with a flash hider on the end. It just gives you those extra few inches, which makes a difference. Now, this is going to be all attached to their barrels, and these barrels are really good. And this particular one is made out of 416R stainless steel. It's got a bead bass finish with a 5/8 by 24 thread pitch, but this particular version, again, is pin and welded, so you're not going to be taking it off. They offer so many different muzzle device attachments for the end of their sabers, especially in the AR-15 lineup. You can find one that matches your can. Very simply, these guys know what they're doing. Now, the gas system on this guy is also where this really shines, and they've done an amazing job of giving you adjustability yet reliability all in the same package. This is a mid-length gas system, but it actually has an adjustable gas block that's pinned into place, and I'm not sure if you can see the pin running through the bottom of the gas block. So not only do you have a bomb-proof lockup with set screws and a pin across it so the gas block won't lock loose under violent chamber or violent pressures, it also is adjustable, so you can set that to whatever you need, and I definitely use the adjustable nature of the gas block down at the range with a wide variety of 6.5 Creedmoor loads, but especially adding a can on the end to such a short package. It functioned great, and you can tune it in. It also gives you a little card and the tool to adjust the gas block in the box, so very nice on them. Now, surrounding the barrel and the gas system is their Sabre rail, and this cool color variation is specifically for those the 10A1 style setups. But you can get this Sabre rail in standard black. Now, the cool thing about this Sabre rail is they've done an amazing job in a few different areas. M-LOK everywhere you need it, a monolithic pick rail at the top, and I can't stress how much I love monolithic pick rails. You can attach lights, lasers, IR aiming devices, whatever you can think of. That is really nice because of the pressure pads or tape switches that clip right onto pick rail. It's just incredibly convenient. I also love the lockup system that they've done on here is rock solid. It is not coming loose. Anti-rotation tabs, and not only do they have QD slots, but they have steel reinforced QD slots into the aluminum itself, so you're not going to wear it out. Now, that is what separates a premium rifle from a pretty good rifle, in my opinion, is these subtle details like this solid lockup system, the anti-rotation tabs, the steel inserts in the rail. Sabre is where it's at, in my opinion. Now, when we come to the receiver set, for me, I personally don't care if you go with the forged version of this or the billet version of this. Now, a lot of the ambidextrous controls may only be offered on the billet. I can't remember, but this one is. So if you are a lefty, go with the billet. It's just going to work out better. You do delete the forward assist, although I find myself rarely, if ever, actually using it, but something to consider. A standard dust cover, but it still machines in a shell deflector. You do have ambidextrous controls for bolt lock and magazine release on both sides of the setup, so that is pretty cool. Actually, sorry, you don't get a mag release on the opposing side. And you do get an ambidextrous safety with the cut down safety on this side, which is really nice. The enhanced trigger guard flows nicely. The beveled magwell works great. And overall, I love the receiver set on this setup. Now, the trigger on this guy is absolutely spectacular. They've done a really good job with their Sabre triggers across the lineup. Now, this particular trigger is actually the Sabre 2-stage, and it's a black DLC-coated trigger with anti-walk pins already installed. So those subtle details that you would expect to add on later are already included from the factory, and this does an amazing job. Now, the 2-stage trigger is not so dramatic with a long pull to a staging point that you can't run it quick as a single stage, as evident in the intro of this video. I'm still going to get to the reliability and the performance and why you would want this in a second, but let's finish out some of the small parts and components. The only con that I had with this particular gun was the bolt lock failed on me the first range trip after 2 lockbacks. When I pulled it out, it looked like an inclusion in the part, and this was an aftermarket part, not an aftermarket, it's stock on the gun itself when it comes, but it's not something that I believe PSA makes. The PSA standard mil-spec bolt hold open has been working great in every single AR-10 I've ever fired, an AR-15. So I just put a standard bolt lock open from PSA back into this, and it's been functioning 100% functional. So it's like a bad part. Now, I called warranty. They immediately got on it to ship one out, but something to consider. I do have another Sabre AR-10 with that same part, and it's been 100% fine. So I think I just got that one random bad part, but that's the great thing about PSA's lifetime warranty. Also to mention, when that broke, the rifle still functions great. It wouldn't keep me down in a fight. It just won't lock back after the last shot. Now, with that being said, let's continue to move on. This one comes with this really awesome color variation of the B5 furniture. I love this B5 furniture. This is my favorite furniture to put on any AR. This is just what I recommend. So that's going to be a personal preference. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. Love the grip angle. Love the texturing. Love this rear part right here that allows you to just tuck your hand right in. No finger grooves, so you can put your hand wherever. QD slots at the rear. Rubberized butt pad. Easy adjustment. Easy on and off. And a nice slope on the stock itself. So really nice right there. Now, the charging handle are going to be the extended charging handles, those Radian Raptor style charging handles. And I love those because they just work out so well. And honestly, after shooting them on the Sabres, I just want to put the Radian Raptor LTs on everything I own because they just work really well. The bolt on this is also freaking awesome. The bolt carrier group on this guy is actually the Sabre AR-10 BCG, but it also has these Springco gas rings and OCK's gas key fasteners. The bolt steel is 9310 and it's a hard chrome finish. So you're getting a lot with that bolt carrier group. It just works out incredibly well down at the range. Now, I believe we've covered every component, how well it functions. And again, the only failure point was the bolt hold open, and that because it was not a standard mil-spec one that they use on their other rifles. Now, why would you want something like this, and was it functional down at the range? And yes, this was 100% functional with feed and function. Again, the only issue we had was the bolt hold open, but it fed great. It ran reliably. Once the bolt open was fixed, it locked back after every round. The adjustable gas block is so convenient and nice. It's pinned in place so you don't have to worry about going anywhere. And it just ran a wide variety of ammo. So great when it comes to reliability, especially with the adjustable gas block. So no issues with reliability. Now when it comes to accuracy, I ran a lot of this for groups at 120 yards, and I was just a touch over an inch, maybe an inch and a half, off of a tripod, standing. If I bench pressed this, picked an ammo it liked, easily a 1-inch gun all day. Is it going to push as far as a standard 6.5 Creedmoor with an 18 or 20-inch barrel? No, you're going to limit yourself with distance, but this is going to hit hard. It's going to go far, and it is crazy accurate for the barrel length. It just really works. I had no issues with hitting my targets, especially at 125, just popping them all day long and running rounds down range. So accuracy, you're not going to have any issues. Now let's talk about why I'd want a 6.5 Creedmoor in a short package. And as you can see in the intro, I actually took this in the back of a truck and immobilized a Jeep Cherokee and like 5 shots before it lost power, and we just finished it off. I mean, when the rounds impacted, it cut through a lot of stuff. They broke apart. They did damage. When I'm hitting steel, even at 120 yards, it swings the steel like you wouldn't believe compared to even a 20-inch 5.56. The power that you get out of a 6.5 Creedmoor up close is awesome. Now, whether you go with a 308 or a 6.5 Creedmoor is up to you. I'm just exploring the 6.5 Creedmoor round, and I'm loving it more and more because of the accuracy potential, because of the ballistic nature of the 6.5 Creedmoor. And after seeing it stop that Jeep Liberty and the hits on target at like 120 and 200, how it affects the steel, I'm loving that round. I think it's here to stay for a very long time, and I love to see PSA creating different options. Now, I also love the fact that this is a shorter barrel, not necessarily for ballistic purposes or CQB clearing steering columns, but by the time you add a can to the end of something like this, you are getting a very long setup. Even with a 16-inch or 18-inch, you're still getting a long setup. So saving that inch and a half, 2 inches, makes a difference for just maneuverability. When this was in the side-by-side with the smaller can on the end, I still felt like it was maneuverable. If you're climbing up into a deer stand or into a blind to do some deer hunting from an elevated position, dragging around that long 18-inch barrel with the cane on the end can be rather difficult. So having that is great. If you're hog hunting with this, and again, you're taking an ATV or you're hiking it into a location, the ability to have a slightly shorter rifle makes all the difference when it comes to actually using it in the field. And honestly, if you're not stretching it past 1,000 yards, I don't think you're going to have to worry about that barrel length difference for accuracy and performance. It's a different animal altogether when you're getting into that, most likely selecting a bolt action. So I know this was a little bit longer of a review, but I wanted to give a full overview of a very interesting option from PSA. I absolutely love it. I personally would use these all day long, and this is what I'm recommending for people who want to get into a mid to upper level AR-10 or AR-15. Sabre is where it's at in my opinion right now, but let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Thanks to PSA for sending this out. Thanks to AAC for sponsoring the ammo. I greatly appreciate both of these guys. Again, more info on the campsite page. Subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.